Dangerously close.
Recording in progress, Doug. Don't blow it. Podcast has started. Shit, I should introduce you. I'm just gonna do just a little bit of your bio. I won't go through the whole thing because that would be outrageous for me to sit here and read your whole fucking bio.
Go for it.
My guest today is Sasha Srbulj. Did I pronounce that right?
You got it.
You got a tough name, man.
I know. SRBULJ. Yeah, it's difficult. It's impossible to pronounce. Really.
I'm sure you've been dealing with that with your whole life, man. I'm not trying to go into a whole fucking bit on how many consonants are in a name.
Yeah, I know. I have been going through it my whole life, and in comedy, I never wanted to change it. I'm like, fuck it, let people deal with it. By the way, we can curse, right?
Yeah, you can say yeah.
Okay.
Fish fuck.
Yeah,
that's a Guar song.
What is it?
Fish fuck.
Fish fuck. The whole song is that?
The whole song is it's Fish fuck by Guar, and that's what the song's about. It's
fish fucking.
Is
it about men or people fucking fish, or is it about fish? Well, fishes fucking each other.
The members of Guar are not exactly men; they're gladiators from another planet.
I see.
So they just got to do what's up. I'm doing a terrible job of introducing you, man.
No problem. Go for it.
But what can I say, man, about Sasha Srbulj? He's a stand-up comedian and creator of the comedy special Artificial Ignorance on Amazon Prime. He performs regularly at major clubs in New York and around the U.S. and internationally. Man, I could go on and on and on, but man, just for the most part, man, I'll just say my own personal 2 cents on this. Dude, I've watched your special twice, and I love it. You're a special kind of comedian to me, where it's and I love the Mitch Hedberg comedians too, where it's just here's a joke, here's a joke, here's a joke. But with you, when you're talking and you're telling jokes, a lot of what you say, man, I'm just no, that's just what I think. That's just my opinion.
Appreciate it. Yeah, there's comedians who do more. Even Mitch Hedberg, though. God rest his soul, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, he was one of the guys I loved even before I got into comedy. And then then I remember one morning just waking up reading that he died. I'm like, are you kidding me? But one of the things about him, he's like a one-liner type of comedian. However, you get a picture of who he is even through those one-liners. If you gave somebody else to do those one-liners, it wouldn't be the right thing, because it is his personality still. So he was great in that respect. But yeah, there's comedians who do one-liner type things. There's comedians who do this. Now, crowd work is very popular, and there's comedians who excel at that. My thing is just, more like writing about observation. I guess it's observational, which isn't anything groundbreaking. It's just your view on things. So,
you know what I forgot to say, man? I forgot to say zdravo, Sasha.
Zdravo. So the explanation for my weird last name is that it's Serbian or Serbo-Croatian. The last name shows up in both Serbia and Croatia. I'm from my family's from Serbia. I was born here. I was born in the States, but my family moved here. So hence that's why that's the weird explanation of. But the name is uncommon there too. I'm not it's not a common name there either. So sometimes it gets a double take even in Serbia and Croatia.
Didn't you say that it means illiterate in Slovenian?
Yeah. I was trying to. It does seem like whoever came up with it was illiterate. It does seem like some Austro-Hungarian official asked one of my family members in the 1800s, well, what's your last name? And they just wrote out some weird names, weird letters, the first letters I could think of. Yeah, it's a good password for your Wi-Fi. It works at so many levels. It looks almost, what it looks most like an air like a confirmation code from American Airlines. They do 6 letters.
It looks like your boarding pass, dude.
Exactly. It looks like my boarding pass. So Sasha's easier. The other thing confusing me with Sasha is is it a boy or is it a girl? Sometimes it's a unisex name. So but yeah, so that works. And by the way, thanks for watching my special. You could see it on YouTube now. It was on Amazon Prime. They took it it rolls through. It was up there for about a year and a half, and then they take it down. You can still buy it on Amazon, but go on YouTube. You can watch it for free. So
Hell yeah, dude. Actually, I I didn't make it far, but I did watch. Just that's why I was just saying like Zdravo. It's just because I watched a little bit of your stand up in Serbian. I don't. Were
I
you
did that.
were you like overseas, or were you just like in a heavily Serbian like
No, well,
area in New York?
I was, there are, areas of New York that have a lot of Serbians and Croatians and people from the former Yugoslavia. No, but I was in Serbia. I was visiting family, and there's a whole budding stand-up scene there, man. It's really good, and it's in the native language. And I said, I went there once, I saw it. I was like, maybe if I could get a special together in Serbian, I could perform it. And luckily enough, this great producer there called Milica said, yeah, come down and, try it out. And that was, I was amazing to do it in Serbian. Some of it is translated from my material. And
That's
some
exactly
of
what
it's
I was
not.
going to ask, man.
No, some of it is, you can translate some, you can't translate. It's weird. Have you ever heard rap in another language?
Dude, I love listening to rap in languages I don't fucking understand. I for a long time I watched a Vice special on Russian rappers, and that shit is real easy to vibe with because they love to use English in the hooks and only the hooks. So then it's like all this shit I don't understand, but it sounds cool because all rap sounds cool. Like if if the person's good and they're in the pocket, but then like but the hook will then be like, oh, fuck you.
Yeah, it's weird. The reason is I've noticed a sort of overlap between comedy and rap in the sense that there's a certain cadence comedy has. Stand-up has like verbiage and the rhythm to it. And when people in another country, when rap started getting big, like in the 80s and 90s, people in other countries started rapping in English because they couldn't fit their language yet. They didn't find the tools to fit their language yet into the rap. And then eventually over the years, they started, it got better and better. And then they all of a sudden realized how to rhyme in their language and how to make the beats hit because languages are all different. And so it takes some time. And stand-up comedy is like that too. It's blowing up all over Europe. It's in Spain, in France, in Germany, like all over, both in English and in the native language. And again, YouTube is part of the reason why it got so far, because all of a sudden, like, 10, 15 years ago, you had YouTube putting up Patton Oswalt and Louis and Bill Burr and whoever, all these comedians, and these people started watching it, laughing at it, and saying maybe we could do it in our language. So it took time, but it's getting there.
I know you kind of went on back to comedy, but it popped in my head, man. The first time I think I ever heard a rap song in French, and I was like, this sounds fucking sick, dude. And like, and I'm not one of the people where I'm like, French is such a beautiful language. I don't think it is, but I think it's a really great language for rap.
French is a language that it's almost entirely composed of sounds that in other languages would be considered speech impediments.
Yeah,
like it's yeah, it's very and they're terribly untalented. I mean, not to generalize, but in general, if your first language is French, if you're from learning a different language is difficult. They have some of the worst accents, and so hearing it, but then it fits in rap. Like they were the first time I ever heard it rap in a different language was French, and it somehow clicked. So yeah,
I actually I minored in Spanish, and one of the things like that's actually when I got really, really into listening into a lot of hip hop that was in Spanish. I became a big ass fan of Daddy Yankee. That was when he was in his prime. So I was listening to Daddy Yankee all the time and like being like, it feels so good when you're trying to learn a new language, but especially if you're listening to music in that language, because that's what the hardest possible time. It's because it's hard to understand lyrics in your own language often. So when you're listening to a rapper speaking a language that you're trying to learn, and then you get a whole line, that clicks in your head.
Oh,
you're like, oh,
I broke the code.
Iller to me than like anything that I'd ever heard Wu-Tang say, even though he probably said some stupid shit. But like I didn't, when I listened to Wu-Tang, I didn't have to fucking I didn't have to work my brain to like grasp it. So
Yeah, languages are, it's weird. It's almost like a magic trick when somebody, I'm bilingual, so I can speak, both Serbian and English without an accent completely, like if a Serbian person spoke to me, they wouldn't know that I'm American and vice versa. So it lets you kind of be incognito between society. Like you can sort of,
Yeah.
but it is sort of like a magic trick. Sometimes you pull it out and people are surprised, like, holy shit, you speak this whole other language. And English speakers, whether they're American, Australian, British, whatever, we get off easy because we don't need to speak another. Like generally, if you go to an airport wherever in the world, the second language, whatever the home language is, you go to India, whatever. Well, India speaks English, but you go to China, signs in Chinese, the run right under is English.
Yeah.
So you don't really need to learn it. You don't get pushed into it as much as if you were Italian or German. Well, I got to learn English because that's the one that the whole world knows. That's my Microsoft Word is in English. You know what I mean? Like the internet basically is in English, so the whole world speaks it, and we're kind of like, as English speakers, we kind of don't have that advantage. We just kind of expect them to come halfway to us, which
Yeah, dude.
We're lazy.
Yeah, we are. I had just had another person on the podcast recently, and we were talking about Germany and the fact that like the people in Germany do like, there's downloads of this podcast in Germany. And I was like, that's crazy because people in Germany, they just speak fluent English. So to them, it's not like, I don't listen to any German podcast because I couldn't understand any, it's not.
Yeah. And
it's embarrassing.
And there is a certain thing that one is the language. Another thing is context. And I don't think we as Americans appreciate enough just how fluid our culture is in the rest of the world. Like, a lot of people have, whenever you read those polls, like a lot of people have negative opinions about the US. That's partially because we air our dirty laundry. Like there are people, you go to Italy, you can find just because of the internet and because of how big our media is. There are people who, how loud our media is. There are people who have like opinions on issues that are like minuscule issues in the US, like, whatever, whether it's some local thing in New York that happened or even a big issue like abortion. I've seen tweets about the US abortion debate in several languages, like, hey, this is terrible and blah, blah. Like, we don't have that. We don't see the Italian stuff on a minuscule level. That's why people have a negative opinion of the state. It's because we air our dirty laundry, I remember back in the day, remember Jerry Springer?
Yeah, how could I forget, man?
That shit was broadcast everywhere. People would be watching that. Oh my God, these Americans are not, and we're sort of comfortable with airing our dirty laundry in a way that many other countries are not comfortable with, nor could they if they were. I remember, dude, if it snows in New York, I mean, here's an amalgam of it, like New York being the media capital sort of in the States and maybe be part of the world. If it snows in New York, everybody knows. Like, oh, there was a snowstorm in New York. People will be, putting stories on Instagram. The whole world knows that there was that snow fell in New York. So it's like that with America's like that too. If we have an issue.
We're the largest exporter of media.
Yeah.
And I guess like other types of culture too, because it's like, I mean, and I guess hip hop, when we brought that up, like that's, probably the greatest gift to the world that America really had was like, fucking hip hop, dude. That's like if you went to Europe in the 90s and somebody met you, and even if they didn't speak a lot of English, they'd be like, oh, American, oh, Tupac, fucking Jerry Springer.
I don't think we fully appreciate. And again, I'm half European, I guess. I did live there for a long time. I lived there for 9 years, between 9 and 18, 19. So I do know. One of the things we don't appreciate as Americans or the rest of the world is everybody is kind of American in this world. Like, just because you grow from the age of 12 to at least 20, you're kind of an American, even if you're probably consuming American music more than anything else. Yeah. You're playing American video games. You're consuming our media, and you kind of dress like an American. Until the Italians start putting suits on, they kind of look like American. They look like American teenagers. I remember a big thing was like getting Abercrombie. You remember Abercrombie was like a label, and I remember everybody in Europe wanted, because they didn't have stores in Europe, so everybody came to the US to buy Abercrombie, which was a teenage high school fucking brand. Yeah. but they were into it, so we don't, I'm not, maybe I'm trying to be a bit positive on America just because we're going through a lot of crap. I think maybe it's a good thing to try to,
because we're like in the final stages before before the grand civil war.
I don't know. I think, you mentioned, we were talking before the show, you mentioned like these Proud Boys dudes, and that's LARPing. All those guys are doing it's live action role playing. They're not,
Dude.
again, and not to again sort of get dark, but I kind of grew up in Serbia during the time when that shit was going down over there. I was far enough from any wars, real war, like shelling, to to not have trauma from that. But you saw society collapse, and you saw this thing that a lot of people are saying, oh, it's going to be, society's collapsing. I saw what that looks like, and those dudes, the Proud Boy type dudes, they're not the ones who end up winning, or they're just LARPing. They're pretending. They're Civil War reenactors.
Dude.
Pretend.
They're Civil War reenactors, but these guys, like, they LARP as like Navy SEALs and special ops.
Yeah,
what I found fascinating, man, I ended up reading this long thing, and you probably already know about this, but it's the origins of QAnon and a lot of that other shit, and that was all LARPing too. It was online LARPing, and there was a bunch of anons. QAnon just happened to be the one that rose to the top, but there was on 4chan. There's a bunch of bored fucking dorks that probably dress up like Navy SEALs on the weekend to go harass like a fucking Planned Parenthood.
Or not even dress up as or like it's this phenomena of like alternate personality, meaning you inhibit some sort of personality online, which is usually the exact opposite of what you really are. Like, you're the mild-mannered office worker, but online you're like, whatever, you're this brutal dude. It's an outlet, and I think the problem is, I think most of a lot of what's going down right now is the issue is that we have these alternate reality machines in our pockets, and we kind of try to inhibit both worlds, and most people don't have the bandwidth to dissect between the two. Do you remember, Edie Falco is the actress she was in Sopranos, right?
Yeah. She's the mom.
So she was the mom in Sopranos. So I remember this story from years ago, back when Sopranos was still on, or maybe I heard it after Sopranos was already off. But basically, Edie Falco was talking about this moment where she was in a deli. I don't know if she lives in New Jersey, but I just imagine it being in New Jersey because of the Sopranos. Yeah. And this was during, like, between the last season and the second to last season. And she's in a deli and she's in line, and like, she's been there for like 5-10 minutes. All of a sudden, this woman walks up to her and starts yelling at her as if she's the lady from The Sopranos. Yeah. Like, how could you do this to Tony? You're after everything. And she looked at her like, thought she was joking. Yeah. But this woman couldn't break out of it. Like, she just had this moment. She's so vested in this narrative that's fake, that's on TV. And she just had this moment where she saw somebody and she couldn't help herself. Yeah. And I think a lot of the countries in that moment, we're having a difficult time to differentiate between reality and fiction. And it's a lot of that, those LARPing idiots, those, the Proud Boys, they walk around thinking, no, you're pretending. Then the minute they get nabbed by the FBI for something, if they walked into the Capitol, they start singing like, it turns out they were informed. It's all bullshit. They're all just pretending.
It's sad too, man, because LARPing has like kind of a little bit of an illustrious past, and shout out to Stranger Things. I feel like in some ways for bringing this back into the light for everyone, is that LARPing really started out with like the Dungeons and Dragons people, and it's not everyone's thing, and and it's easy to make fun of. It's easy to make fun of a dude that wants to pretend to be a wizard or a knight. Yeah, but they're hard.
And I'm not making fun of those people. Yeah. As long as you're not a wizard. As long as when the game's over, you're not walking around, pretending to actually cast spells on people, which I think is where a lot of people, because you have this machine again in your pocket that will constantly project this reality. All you got to do is, how many times do you look at your phone? Well, if every time you look at the phone, it's telling you you're a badass MAGA, fucking Proud Boy, or you're a wizard, then eventually a lot of people don't have the bandwidth to actually contain themselves, to realize what reality is and what is fiction. So
no, dude, yeah, if if there was a media channel, if there was like a Fox News media channel called like Dungeons and Dragons News, and it was like, and it was on television, and it was allowed to be on television and present itself as news, and have that kind of budget, and it was constantly telling everyone, they're like, no, you are a fucking elf. You are literally an elf. You're on a quest. You're a fucking wizard. You have to defeat Vecna. Like this is real. Vecna is real. This is not. Like, so.
Yeah, it is, and you're right. It does. There's two things. So you know why? Like, again, to bridge it over into comedy, just because let's say I represent that part of the world. You know, The Onion.
It's my favorite news source, man.
Okay, great. America's favorite news. One of the big reasons why, two reasons why Onion is hilarious. One is they have amazing writers and they're just hilarious people. But two, a lot of it's because of the format, meaning the context is, even though it's a fake newspaper, the context is it looks like a newspaper. It's part of why the Colbert Show is funny, or the Daily, because it looks like news, but they're making jokes.
Yeah.
So that's the context makes it funny. It's easy if you just said an Onion headline, it's not as funny as if you read it in an article that looks serious. So it's the same thing. We attribute authority to these formats, whether it's news, whether it's the newspapers, whether it's a politician saying something.
Yeah.
Or a CEO, if it's Elon Musk, well, he's got to be, right? He's we attribute these things, and especially older people, like boomers, are seeped into this stuff. They cannot tell, boomers can't tell reality from fiction. A lot of them.
They used to have Walter Cronkite, and the most trusted man in America, but there's no fucking such thing as Walter Cronkite anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Not only that, the reason, part of it is, it's interesting, part of it, the reason is because of material code, meaning like, in order to create a Walter Cronkite back in the 60s, you had to have a gigantic media operation. You'd have to have broadcasting towers all over the country. You'd have to have a studio in New York. There had to be satellite link. I mean, it was a big deal. So he had authority because he comes from that system. Right now, everybody's got a broadcasting studio in their pocket. Every idiot can make a news story, quote unquote, make it look like a news story. But I think our parents' generation, or our grandparents' generation, they still can't get around that. They don't understand that, a lot of what they see on the internet is complete bullshit. There's no connection with reality.
Yeah.
And they just absorb the authority of what was in Walter Cronkite or Peter Jennings or, a New York Times, and they see the same format. It looks like an article. There's a man on Fox News with a boat. Even though it's billed as entertainment in the Fox segment, they can't tell the difference. To them, it's news. To them, it's Antifa's taking over the suburb. They can't tell the difference.
And fucking Tucker's out here, and he's like, and he's talking to our elders and being like, America used to be a country, and now it's on fire. What happened? You should be afraid. Like, shut the fuck up. But like,
there's
it is indiscernible from what an actual journalist anchorman would have been like in the 1970s.
Yeah, exactly. If the guy, I mean, it's weird, but if he had like long hair or looked it wouldn't work. He kind of has to look like the conservative part, newspaper reporter or whatever, or newscaster, but then he says crazy shit. Do you remember that? Eddie Izzard. Do you know that comedian?
Yeah, I know who he is. I'm not familiar with him in really any way. Like, I've never seen his shit.
So in his seminal stand-up special called Dressed to Kill, he talks of an example where what the psychologists have determined that people react to 70% what you look like, 20% how you sound, and 10% what you say. Like if you're looking at the masses, right?
Yeah.
That's how people react. So as long as you look the part, you look like the news, you say Fox News, it says news in the bottom,
Yeah.
People will react to that. And then it gets into a much darker sort of problem where it's, if you confront, as I have people who I know if you confront them with reality, if you confront them with proof, well, it can't be what Tucker or whoever is saying can't be true because here X, Y, or look out the window, they'll choose the narrative that they like. You know, it's almost reality doesn't even matter. You know? So that's the more depressing thing. The fact that, you know, they're still, and to that, there has to be a comfort level, meaning you have to be comfortable enough to know that, well, it doesn't really affect me that much. I could still live in this fantasy land, you know. And that's where, again, we tie it back to the Proud Boy thing. It's all fun and games until the FBI shows up. Now all of a sudden you know what reality is. Now all of a sudden you can discern, you know, when serious charges are being, all of a sudden you can discern fact from fiction. It's an interesting, you know, dichotomy. But,
You're making me think so much of this. Is something that I it's a thought I had recently, but it ties into what you were saying with Eddie Izzard's statement. And I think you bring up something very close to this in your special too. When you're talking about appearance, you're also talking about with men with height, and you know, and who I think about, man, someone that just pops in my head. And don't get me wrong, dude, I love Marvel movies, dude. I don't care if that makes me a basic ass bitch.
No,
they're fun as hell, and I love.
They're fun.
Thor is
like
my favorite character, but it's like the dude that plays Thor, that dude Chris Hemsworth. He probably just walks up to like an executive at, you know, Marvel, and he's like, yeah, like, here's the deal. I want to be in this movie and I want to get paid $60 million. And they're like, yeah, because it's like 70% of it is they're looking at him. And tell you what, the 10% they hear what he's having to say, and then, or no, 10%,
I mean,
it's what he sounds cool.
It helps. I mean, can you imagine that, you know, 90%, somebody said that, I forgot what, I think maybe a comedian, like, is it slightly odd that 90% of like actors and musicians happen to be beautiful? Isn't it that weird that, you know,
exactly.
they get both of those talents? I mean, but look, it's a visual medium. And if you're trying, especially blockbuster movies, which is what, you know, Marvel is, they're going for millions. They're not going for hundreds of thousands of years. Then yeah, you gotta scrape the, you know, you gotta, what's gonna, probably, you know, if you, I don't know, I'm sure you could get a better actor, thespian. Not that Chris Hemsworth is bad actor or anything, but I'm sure you could get a better thespian, and you know, have the but you're not going to get the same effect as like those broad shoulders, you know what I mean, and blonde hair. Look, dude, I'm you know, I find them attractive. I'm straight.
That is the thing about men that are as attractive as Chris Hemsworth, is like, you identify as straight all you want, but you're gonna, you know, come on, man, that's fucking Thor.
You're like, if you gotta if
he's a god, dude, he's a god, man. Oh man, I mean, I love that.
If you're in prison. And
that is one of the best lines in all those fucking Avenger movies, where they catch him on a spaceship, and it's like Chris Pratt and that guy that the fucking I think he was a UFC fighter or something. Anyway, he's just a dude, and he's like, no, man, you're a dude. He's like, he looks like an angel has sex with a pirate.
I really like, I don't know where I am, because I didn't start watching them sequentially, all the Marvel movies. So every once in a while I'll just watch whatever's on, you know, the ones that Tiki Waitata, what's his name? Tiki Waitata?
Tiki fucking, dude, I just literally had a
anyway, that's a man crush.
We're talking about him.
That's my man crush. Again, straight dude, but you know, that's another guy I wouldn't mind spending some time on a desert island. But just because it'd be
New Zealand is producing so many fucking baller ass actors. I mean, and they have it for a long time. I don't know if you've been fucking with the boys.
I've never been to...
But Carl Urban just killing it. And then the dude that plays Homelander, he's also from New Zealand. Just like, it's like genius acting.
And I mean, bring it back to comedy, the Flight of the Conchords.
Oh, Flight of the Conchords, yeah.
They're like, also from New Zealand.
Weirdly, like, they're like, for me, like, they were like the flagship New Zealanders. Like, they introduced me to the fact that New Zealand was a place. You know, like, I was like,
otherwise it's just sheep. And there's an interesting, so there's a dichotomy between New Zealand and Australia that I think sometimes they tend to try to pitch it like Canada, America, meaning, you know, New Zealand is to Australia what Canada is to the US, because, you know, New Zealand general, although I don't, that's giving, I think, too much credit to Canada, because I think, again, we Americans, we like to look at ourselves in the you know, it's a good thing, actually, the fact that we can criticize ourselves as well as we can. but I think Canada gets off a bit too easy. I mean, they weren't really nice to their indigenous people either. So,
Yeah,
the whole,
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. New Zealand is a nicer place than Canada.
probably, I don't, it seems more chill. And also it seems more chill than Australia. Australia also has got a bit more of that, rah, 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 USA kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
It seems, but they both managed to ban guns, which we still haven't really gotten into, even touching the surface. But anyway.
Oh, dude, you know what? This is a perfect time for me to bring this. Speaking of traveling to faraway lands, and then also speaking of just like opening up a set with a bit on guns in a faraway land, especially a faraway land where people truly, truly love their guns. You just toured Florida, man. So
yeah,
New York man goes down to Florida.
How many listeners do you have in Florida?
I don't fucking know, man, but a lot, dude. I mean,
good.
Anything that's like only places in America, like it's coastal, is where like you can see like the brighter colors, and then it diminishes kind of towards the Dakotas and like Montana. Like that's where like nobody's really fucking with me.
I went to it was weird because I've been touring with my buddy Eric Newman, supporting him. He's a great comedian who he does a lot of and books me on a lot of these gigs. So I went with him to Texas. I went with him to Florida. Did 2 gigs in Florida last week. Did a bunch of so I've been all over Michigan, Texas, Florida, Delaware, Oregon. We've been all over, and it's interesting to see how the material works amongst different crowds and different communities.
That's a wild tour, dude. That's a wild like grab bag of states, man.
Yeah. And it's interesting, even within like Texas is gigantic, and then like you have different attitudes in one city versus the other. And Florida also. I've been to Florida, and they have a sense of humor about what they are, because they know the whole country thinks they're of them certainly. But like I have a feel, Florida used to be like a retirement. That's when I was a kid. I remember that's just where everybody goes to retire when they're older. Now I realize it's where everybody goes to retire, even if they're not really retired. Like what I mean is, if you've moved to Florida, you're kind of retired. You know what I mean? You're not.
you're not done.
You're not killing it. Nobody moves to Florida like I'm gonna grind really. No, you move to Florida kind of half-assed to kick back. It's Margaritaville. It's a jet ski. You're not killing yourself in Florida unless you're like, I don't know, in the hotel industry or selling coke. Those are the 2 only things that you're like. You move to Florida to be amongst the most competitive.
Unless you're Tony Montana, you move to Florida to be like fucking Scarface. That's exactly. One way to do it. But I had a great experience as an adult. I had a million great experiences in Florida as a child. That's where we used to go, because I'm here in Nashville, so it's not, that's the closest nice beaches really. But as an adult, my friend, he's a DJ, and I was bitching. I was like, man, I need a vacation. And he's like, look, dude, I'll just book a tour in Florida when you come down there, and I'll just put you on as like part of my shit. Like, he could put me on as the entourage, and just called me security. And so they had to like give me a hotel room. They had to give me, whatever I had to get. So it was great. It was a fucking free vacation. But one of the coolest things was the promoter we were dealing with. His dad was in charge of like recreational shit on the beach. So he's the dude that gives you a paddle board or a kayak, or like hooks you up with like going out in one of those little speedboats with and the thing was like, that dude's life to me, like at that time, this is a few years ago, and he was probably only like, he's probably about 50, It's like, but it seemed like the lack of stress and on that dude had like kept him like just, and he's out in the sun all day long, just baking, he's tan as shit, but he didn't look like he just. I remember I went up there, and it was like 6 a.m. I saw his ass up like paddleboarding around the around the sandbar, and he came in.
It's an easier life.
Yeah, I was like, but it was like to me, I was like, this guy made a good choice, dude.
Yeah, it's an easier life, and it technically, I mean, really, on paper, Florida should be heaven on earth. I mean, it should be like there's beaches all around. It's a developed state. It's not like it's it's been a developed state for many years, a large population. There's, tourists always coming and going. There's Disneyland, there's Universal Studios, there's all this stuff, the, Kennedy Space Center. Florida has a lot of things.
Yeah, dude, it should be heaven on earth, man. It really
but
should.
It's not, and it's because of the people. It's just it's not the geography, it's not the, it's just the, and it does have this attraction towards, I'm gonna, fuck yeah, I'm just gonna have a martini at, I'm gonna have a margarita at noon. It just has that. I'm gonna wear flip-flops for the rest of my life, which again,
nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it, but it's not conducive of, and it is, I don't know if you're in Nashville, right? Did you grow up in Nashville? And
yeah, I was born in Tucson. So
okay.
But like I just say I grew up in Nashville. Like there's no reason to complicate it with like the footnotes.
Yeah, I don't know if Florida may be the key. Florida may be the key to our countries sort of coming together, because I have a feeling, because it's a southern state, it gets, I know, like in Florida they say the more south you go, the more north you go, like sort of, Jacksonville, the northern part of Florida is more southern, and then Miami's kind of more either New York transplant or Latin or however you want to do it.
Yeah, Miami is fucking awesome, man. Like when you're in Miami, dude, you don't feel like you're in the South in any way, shape, or form. No. You're like, when I was there like last time, I was just like, dude, this is a city like none other, man, in so many ways.
It is. It's special. I don't want to rat on. I mean, I like going down there and everything, but they do get, they get a lot of crap because of the sunshine laws. You know what those are? Like basically every police, I mean, that's part of the reason why you keep on hearing Florida man gets arrested for wrestling alligator over beef jerky, like you get those news stories because Florida has something called the sunshine law, which means that any arrest in Florida is open source, meaning anybody can look it up.
Oh.
So there's no, and it's just sort of when news people are bored and they have nothing to report on, Florida is the police blotter they can always turn to and find some crazy shit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why they get the bad rap. And another thing, I did this bit down there and it kind of worked. I don't know how much. So one of the issues is I believe that the Florida man, his origins are really from Long Island. It's really the Long Island. That's the lineage. He moved from Long Island at some point. He's like sick of being a roofer on Long Island. He moved to Florida, bought a boat, started wrestling alligators, eventually got into crystal meth. There's a whole lineage there.
There's a story behind every Florida man.
Yeah. It's not Florida. It's really it's us from the rest of the country going down there and abusing the state. I have a theory that it's really us. It's not them.
Yeah.
And it's not the native Floridians. So,
if they were isolationists, if they were able to be like, we're gonna cut off Florida. Like you need a passport to get in here. It's the whole, it could become that utopia that we were discussing. If the people down there could be left the fuck alone from the absolute worst tourists in America, all choose to go to Florida.
Cruises. Yeah, because look, if you put a big sign in front of your state that says, come down, kick back, it's not going to be Harvard graduates. I just listened to this podcast. I mean, it's going to be Harvard graduates for about a week while they get drunk and high. They're not going to live there to create the next, Amazon or whatever. There was a big push during the crypto boom a couple of years ago or a year ago, where they tried to make Miami like a crypto hub and a tech hub kind of.
Yeah.
And a lot of people moved to Florida for tax reasons, and during the pandemic especially, because it was funner and it was, but they couldn't really make it a tech hub because it was lacking really a big tech university. Like Florida doesn't have like a big, nationally recognized huge, Virginia Tech or whatever, like a technology university. So that's why I kind of fizzled through, and then Bitcoin trash. But one more thing, what we have on Long Island that kind of, because I grew up sort of on Long Island too, or at least in New York, the craziness that you see in New York, at least we get 4 months of winter. So
people stay inside.
It snows them in, and then the rest of us can strategize. All right, what are we gonna do this year? Let them, while they're watching the Jets, while we distract them with that, let's try to figure out how to handle. In Florida, it's just, constant craziness with jet skis and alligator. It's a crazy house.
Dude, I mean, shit, when this next ice shelf falls off the western polar ice shelf, and when that falls,
Yeah.
Shit, man, New York could be the new Florida.
Yeah, it could get hot enough. Actually, so the other thing is, we talked about like how the negativity, again, the algorithms that we all live by now support negativity more, because the human brain looks at negativity with greater attention than positivity, because things are going to be cool, good, I don't have to engage with that anymore. What do you mean it's going to be shitty? There's going to be bad things? What's going to happen? How do I protect that? Makes the algorithm engage you more, so it favors the negative shit. Like we used to have, I think Chomsky Noam Chomsky had that book, he coined the phrase manufacturing consent.
Yeah,
which,
I read that.
if you've heard,
I didn't quite comprehend everything.
Basically, he was trying to describe how democracies, even countries where majority rules, how they can still manufacture consent amongst the majority of the population to get involved in wars, et cetera, et cetera. So now we have a situation where it's based, because of the algorithms and because of social media, we have something called manufacturing discontent. So now people are generally discontent. I've been in rooms with people that have houses that are just, everybody dreams of, that live in gated communities, that live in the top 1% of this country, in all aspects, that haven't flown commercial in years, and they're bitching. Like they're complaining that everything's bad. Like, I think we need to step back a bit. I think a lot of people need to, like, come on, it's not, it's probably, this country's gone through worse shit. The 70s were crazy.
I say
the 60s
this
were crazy.
I say this with absolutely no sarcasm. I'm not being snide in any fucking way. I say this with absolute sincerity. I think there needs to be a federal legalization of, of course, weed. Just fucking legalize weed. That's harmless.
Yeah.
But also there needs to be a federal legalization of psilocybin mushrooms. I would say just basically any kind of hallucinogen is, because there's so much going on with people, realizing that they have therapeutic, it can cure PTSD, all that. But also, if people were just tripping a whole lot, it'd be a lot harder to get you to be so discontented with everything, because you need to take a moment and fucking think outside of just your physical self. And I feel bad being like, I don't want to be like Mr. Mushrooms are gonna solve everything, but they wouldn't fucking hurt. And you know who outlawed them? Richard Nixon. A fucking criminally insane piece of shit, went down in history as a disgrace. He's the one that outlawed psilocybin. So can we at least reverse his law?
Yeah, it's a weird when you look at how, this has been a trope that's been mentioned. Like, it's weird how much alcohol really fucks up society. And it's legal. Not only is it legal, it's like, pushed on you. Like, why do you not drink? And then you have things like that, like psilocybin. I'm sure there are cases, for instance, where if somebody is mentally ill, being on mushrooms could make it worse. But yeah, for this, I agree with. I think we're not. I understand what your point is, because we're so consumed by all the algorithms now that it does maybe take something like a transcendental experience brought on by a mushroom to kind of break you away, to go, wait, this is all bullshit. This guy I'm arguing with on Twitter, it's ridiculous. It doesn't even exist. It's just BS. He's got his life. We don't even disagree that much. This is a game.
Yeah.
It's gamified. The internet is gamified argument. It's just, I think beyond that, I really think if this is how much it could affect us with this type of algorithm, I think they need to change the profit motive of social media companies. They have to tweak anything. The government has to get in. No, you can't make money off of people arguing. Look, I had a clip on YouTube that I shut down. I couldn't, it got crazy. It was a clip about, it's still up there, but I shut down the comments. It was a clip about, I was making fun of people who believe in conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
So the joke was basically, you can watch it. I don't want to redo it, but basically the joke was, my favorite conspiracy theory during the pandemic was, this is a pandemic, man. They're doing this to control us. I'm like, really? this is what they're doing to control us. Yeah, remember how in 2019 we were all out of control. Remember how we were like crazy in 2000, we were all neatly waiting in line for the new iPhone. That was crazy, man.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You have 4 car payments, 2 mortgages, 17 credit cards. You think this is how they're controlling you? You know what I mean? Like I got into like just the stupidity of that concept and how people and for some reason it got picked up by the algorithm. It got put, a lot of people went online and started.
It's because you said the word pandemic, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And why I said the word pandemic, I went against it. So now I got all these people really pissed off at me for even suggesting that they're stupid, for suggesting that, and they went, and then you had these arguments in the comments section. I didn't even look at them, but then whenever I glanced, I mean, there were threats, you need to be, you need to hurt, there was all kinds of stuff. And then there was like really weird ones, almost schizophrenic. Like, my wife left me because of people like you, and how much is George Soros paying you? And you're on the payroll. And then they get into conversations amongst each other, and there were entirely new conspiracies sprouting out of those. So I was like, I got to shut this down before before they invent some new conspiracy theory that they. I shut it down immediately. It got like, in 2 days, it got like 100 and something thousand views. And then the minute I shut down the comments, it went down to like, 1 or 2. The algorithm just doesn't like the fact. Like, there could be literal threats to each other. They could be arguing to the point of blood spilling, and the algorithm won't stop that.
So that's what it is. That's generating engagement, and it's generating, so it's drawing people to that. And then when everyone does watch your video, then they see a fucking ad. So they don't give a fuck that everyone's out here bloodthirsty.
They need to get
charged. Came from a fucking bat. You're and these aren't scientists or people that
one of the best. And then you want to know what's really scary? I mean, because there were, not to judge again, I don't want to, but there were really people in the comments. Some of them, not all. Some of them were just the normal trolls and whatever, and some of them had honest opinions, and a lot of them were saying, "Hey man, this guy's just joking. Leave him alone." There was all kinds of stuff, but there was a good. There was some people there that were mentally, you could just tell by the way they're writing, they're not there. And then I shut down the comments, and then they would follow me on other platforms. They'd like go onto another video. Hey man, why'd you shut down the comments? What are you afraid of? Who are you working for? How much are they paying you? Are you on the payroll? Like these, I mean, if any other context, these are schizophrenic ideas. These are there are people in mental hospitals that talk like this.
Yeah.
And it's scary. And I think until somebody sues the shit out, until somebody proves in some court that because of YouTube or Twitter, this guy did something terrible, or this terrible thing happened to him, and until a courtroom goes, you know what, these people are liable, it's not going to change. They're not going to change their algorithm.
For them, in the meantime, basically what are a lot of the things that are consequences, like, families falling apart, people getting divorces, people like, people have oh man, like, dude, I can't talk to my dad ever again because he fucking is so deep into conspiracy theories. It's like, it's untenable.
I know 5-6 people right off the top of my head that can't talk, that just can't. And it's weird how they go, first it's, I can't talk to them about that. Then I can't talk to, and then it bleeds into like, I can't mention anything, because they're in this mode where everything is about that. They once they become consumed by this narrative, everything becomes about that. Like, you can't, like, I didn't know electric cars now are supposedly, like, if you drive an electric car, you're a libtard. Like, you can't, eventually you can't talk about anything. And the interesting thing is, there's this, I don't know if you ever watched those guys, I forgot his name, but there's a dude who talks about decoding people who get into cults.
Okay.
Like, how do you, if you have a family member, a loved one that's in a cult, how do you
deprogram them from that fucking shit?
Yeah. And he said, one of these guys was saying that he was in a cult. He was in the Moonies. I don't know if you remember this.
Dude, he was in the Moonies?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, dude.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Speaking of Nixon, right?
I just recently listened to a speech by the guy that started that cult, Mooney himself. And he gave a fucking speech in front of Congress, like at a really it was at a very expensive dinner, kind of like the news correspondence dinner. There's all these senators and congressmen in presence. It's a coronation. He was coronated as king of whatever, and then he has a very thick accent. It's not.
It's Korean,
Yeah,
Sun Young Moon,
and
he's a Korean guy. Yeah.
And he goes on to say that that if people that once they can eliminate free sex, then no one can stand against him. And there's like senator, people like in the audience, like like visibly like, what the fuck?
Yeah, basically what happened was he could deliver. I mean, he convinced these politicians that he could deliver a lot of votes to them strategically, like, because he had chapters all over the country. And it was, I think not to get into how the cult came about, I think it came from Christianity, maybe not, maybe it turned into just a personality cult about him. But the issue, and now he died, so there's like people who inherited the cult, but it doesn't matter. The issue with this guy was he just kind of walked you through how he got seduced by the cult. Nobody knows they're in a cult until it's too late. Nobody thinks they're in a cult. But one of the ways cults thrive is they get their members to work for them for free. So even the Scientologists or whatever, they have lawyers that just do free work for them because they're Scientologists. They believe in it, So it's kind of like they do charity for their own organization. But anyway, he was exhausted how much he was working for them, because they had him driving books, literature between cities in a van.
Yeah.
And what happened to him, and this is key to getting anybody deprogrammed, is that he got into an accident, and he went into the hospital. He was like in a coma maybe or something. He was in the hospital for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
During which you're only allowed to be visited by your family. A family who hasn't seen him for months because he disassociated with them. They weren't in the cult.
Yeah.
And because of that, because that's what got me off of the cult thing. And it wasn't the fact that he saw his family. That's one thing. It was just the fact that he wasn't in the cult for 2 weeks. Meaning, while you're in the cult, you constantly have this drip of information, of seduction, of brainwashing. And once you're away from it, you can't. It starts looking stupid. You go. Not only imagine this. Imagine a Fox News viewer, a big devotee of Trump and MAGA and whatever.
Yeah.
Gets into an accident, God forbid, whatever, or let's just say for 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever, he can't or she can't. Usually it's a he though. Can't view anything. He's away from his phone. Maybe he's in a hospital, whatever. It would be impossible for him to jump back in. I mean, if you're not following the narrative consistently every day, I mean, if he jumps back in 2 months from now, wait, what do you mean? Wait, Giuliani's a bad guy now? What?
Yeah.
But it breaks his narrative, because the thing changes so quickly. There's so many people become bad guys and good guys. You don't know what you're watching anymore.
It's
so
like
critical.
You could easily say it's just very similar to a traditional drug detox. Just a regular old drug that you snort or inject or whatever that affects your brain in whatever way, and you get put in a situation like potentially rehab. I know rehab doesn't always work, of course, but like sometimes somebody just needs to get off just to kick the fucking drug, and then they've got the autonomy at that point to decide, oh, you know what, I don't want to get back on this. It was destructive. And the same thing can happen if you're in a cult. You kick it, and then you got the autonomy to be like, do I really want to go back into this subservient position in this cult and lose contact with my family?
Yeah, exactly. It just starts looking like bullshit, because you're not. It depends on these constant little dopamine hits of victory and rage, and I got them there. Oh, they're getting. Oh, it's so unfair. It constantly depends on these narratives, and if you break from it, it's hard to jump back in it without realizing all the holes in the plot. So it's sort of a thing. It's critical that you kind of get your grandpa or dad, get them away, get them down to Florida, put them on a boat. Let's go fishing for a month or for a couple of weeks. It helps that they're away from. Get them off the phone. Give them Or start maybe hack it. I had this plan with one of my friends whose dad was sort of off the deep end, and I was joking with him. Let's get some hackers to hack into your dad's phone and slowly, like drip him off,
Yeah,
take him off of it.
dude, I had an experience nowhere near on the level of your YouTube. It wasn't like that. This was just a tweet that I threw out in the fucking, honestly, it was just a joke. But I got dog piled by these fucking Kyle Rittenhouse dick riders, and
that guy.
It was during the fucking it was when the trucker convoy was like blocking the US border, and nobody couldn't transport shit across the border into Michigan because of the pandemic or whatever. And that wasn't even what I was even interested in. What I was interested in was Kyle Rittenhouse traveled across state lines. He went to Minnesota, shot some fucking people, went home, and everybody's like, "Hey man, he's a fucking hero, man. He's protected property." And so, so I was like, "Yo, when's Kyle Rittenhouse gonna go fucking, go up to Canada and fucking protect some property from these protesters?" Yeah. And I guess like people just go on Twitter and search keywords like Kyle Rittenhouse, just looking for people like me, and just, oh man, the fucking rage and hate and viciousness, but also beneath it all, the loneliness of these men.
Yeah, exactly.
Like these guys all have fucking like 10 Twitter followers. They're like, you're a fucking retard. You don't know fucking shit.
Nobody here, not to be, I don't want to trivialize this. I used to have a joke about like school shooters. Like nobody wakes up from getting a blowjob and then decides to shoot up a school. Like it's just, unfortunately, I mean, generally those kids tend to be, lonely. I mean, I know there's ones with serious mental issues where a lack of sex isn't the only thing. But generally, if you have a blowjob to look forward to later that day, you tend to plan the day accordingly. You don't say, I'm going to be in jail tomorrow, kill myself. It's just generally, and that's what you get a lot of times when these people comment on your, when you get these dog piles, as you say, it's a lot of lonely men. It's a lot of men who are not, to use the term, actualized. And, that could be for several reasons: economic, social, their own, proclivity for this stuff. But in general, it's not people who have, a lot of choices on Tinder,
Yeah. Because dude, I mean, seriously, man, wouldn't it be so much more fun to go on Tinder, and just be swiping and being like, yeah, dude, fucking Twinder, dude, like an app for like people that, Tinder, like for like twins that want to date twins.
Or no, I was
don't steal my idea. I'm developing this app.
Yeah, you should do you shit post on Tinder? No, that's who we need to help. This would be a good thing. You need to help people who are obsessed with shit posting and trolling and whatever. We need to get them laid. Now, dude. Who's gonna take that job? That's why we need sex robots. I think we need them to take over.
I have been saying this for fucking years, that sex robots are going to be what saves us, because
exactly
these, I mean, and I'm not trying to be callous, and once again we're being sarcastic, because we've just had some very fucking tragic shootings that just happened, and by the time this podcast episode comes out, there will be another one. And that's just how it's. I'm not trivializing that or fucking joking about it. And when I talk about sex robots in this way, it's not a joke either, man. It's the fact that if we had extremely realistic android sex robots that could these lonely fucking 18 to 20-year-old fucking shooters specifically, because that's when they're at their horniest, but any of these guys, the shit posting trolls that are in their 60s, if they could all just fuck a robot that made them feel wanted and loved, and also just fucked them, violence, even if it's astronomical.
Just companionship. It's I know. I think that a lot of it comes from that. I again, I'm not a psychologist, and we're not talking in a serious, 100% serious matter. But I think a lot of it is it's never the most socially engaged person that does these things. you had that dude from, I mean, there are moments where it's completely unexplainable. Like that dude in Las Vegas, remember that guy? Who was
Yeah.
like a millionaire who apparently had, I mean, that's probably just mental, that's the lack of psychiatric
Yeah.
treatment, bro.
That's where the
But
conspiracy theories start to like you get more curious. Like, that's like the Manchurian candidate type behavior,
yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, look, again, one of the things that I get most dumped on online, I mean, when I get in, like when people shit on me on Twitter, is those two things. Conspiracy theories, if I make fun of them for believing in conspiracy theories, I get a lot of quote unquote engagement, rage, basically. And the other thing is guns. So I had that joke about people, people will dump on me for, oh, like you're taking my guns away or something. I'm making fun of people who are obsessed with guns, and that's part of the reason why all this is happening. It's the access to guns. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
it's too easy to get a gun. It's 18-year-old can walk in and like get a gun. It's just too easy. It shouldn't be like that. And I know there are responsible gun owners, and I'm not. But yeah, I'm sorry if we could go like this and all the guns went away in this country, which we can't do. There would be no gun crime. Australia kind of did it. It dropped dramatically. There's no, I mean, not to be, I know you're in Nashville, and I know that there's a more sort of pro-gun attitude there.
Oh, dude, I have to be careful here, man, because I am not, and I'm not a pacifist myself, man, and we got like a lot of dudes and big monster trucks and shit out here, and I drive a regular vehicle. I drive a sedan, so people do some shit, and also I'm a I ride a bicycle. I'm a cyclist. I'll get out and ride my fucking bike for pleasure, man. And
yeah.
people do shit, and I'm like this motherfucker, and the fact that I haven't had my head blown off yet is actually statistically an anomaly, man, because of like,
you got to be careful.
How many dudes have had a gun in their hand while I was at their driver's side window being like, you motherfucker. So
that's why it's a bad idea. Look, let me put it to you this way. For what, again, and it's not because I'm one of the most tragic thing about the gun situation in this country is most of it's suicide. Most of gun deaths are suicides. I make a joke about it, but 52% every year is people killing themselves. The people who have guns are killing themselves more than they're killing other people.
It's a suicide button.
It's a suicide button. And dude, if every garage in America had a noose just hanging there, whatever, it's like a noose that you close your garage with. Let's say you close your garage door with it, but it was a functioning noose. You don't think if you're walking by it you don't think it's just easy to just people they're hanging.
If everyone had a functional noose in their house, that was like part of just society. You're like, oh no, everyone's gonna have a noose. Don't take my noose. Don't take our noose. That's that's
don't take
fascism.
my noose.
But then noose deaths would go up 10,000%.
There's this case. I'm not even joking. There's this case where and this is fucked up because I don't know if if anybody, there was a Radiolab episode, I think, another podcast about this, but if anybody knows that, do you know anybody close that committed suicide? Was anybody close to you that
I've had I've had to experience suicides of I guess the answer is yes. I have been close to people who have committed suicide. I'm sorry that I worded that weird at first. It's one of those things that I don't always know the right way to say that. Yes, I've had people that have been close to me that have committed suicide.
It's a tragedy, but it is not only is a tragedy, but we can wrap our heads around the fact that somebody can snap and kill somebody. Like we're completely used to that, both on the news and in movies. Like just what the fuck? There's a rage-filled moment, and they can commit murder. People can do that out of despair or rage, whatever it is, and kill themselves. It's not a well thought out, oh, I really can't go on, and I've given it all my chance. Sometimes it's just spontaneous. It's
extremely
terrible.
Spontaneous. And I don't want to interrupt you, but I do have to bring up a friend of mine. This is like in my early 20s when I was, I rented out a house and I threw house parties, and it was fucking awesome. And he came to my party, and this is the last time I saw him alive. Also, I was the last person to see him alive. He was at my party. It was super fun. There was tons of girls there, it was a great time. He was one of the last people to leave. And he was like, oh shit, man, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna get home and stuff. Like, in no way to me did he appear as though he was even sad or had anything on his mind. He was just like, yo, thanks for like inviting me, man. I'm gonna get out of here. It's getting late. And I was like, word, man. I'll let you know next time I throw a party, man. It's always good to see you. And that was it. That, he had a gun at home. He went home and he shot himself with it. And that, because it's
right there.
And I don't know what he was going through, man. I definitely don't. But and I don't know where I'm going with that, because I don't have a point and I don't have an agenda.
It's a dangerous object to have in your home. I understand that, and sort of what I wanted to say with this is there's cases where, again, I think it was a Radiolab episode where they talked about, anyway, there's this pill. I don't want to even mention the name, but it's an over-the-counter thing. And if you have you go to Costco and BJ's, you can get 500 pills of it, like a big thing. And there's all these message boards that figured out a way to commit suicide with it, like if you did something, if you put 500 pills if you just take that bottle, dump it in a I don't know what blender, and then add in another 500 pills of it, of something else, you can kill yourself, and the company that was dealing, I don't want to mention names, right? But the company that was dealing with this, they said, shit, and this was in California, I think. They said, shit, we noticed that people are committing suicides by taking our two products and combining them. But they really have to combine a lot. So they said, well, they go to these wholesale places, right? And they buy a whole, and they're like, well, how do we have to cut out the wholesale? We have to sell them only in small packages. And then somebody said, no, let's do this. Let's just take, instead of putting in a bottle, let's put them in blister packs, those little, individual blister. And they did that. And they still, because our customers want value. It was like we're not going to change our whole model for less than 1%. Our customers want to buy these big packs for the whole family for the whole year, whatever. So by putting these two products in blister packs, the number, get this, the next year, the number of suicides went down. And it not only went down to almost exactly the amount of people that were committing suicide by that method.
So you had all the time to sit there, and every time you had to pop a pill out of the fucking blister pack, you had one more second to think about what you were doing. And it's, when you do something like that, that's like methodical. That's the difference between a crime of passion, with road rage. If you were in a car and some guy on a bicycle, you don't like what he's doing, and then he comes over to your window and says, hey, fuck you, and then you shoot me, you didn't premeditate my death. It just was very easy to kill me because you already had your gun in your hand. But the thing is, but if you're like a person, if you hunt cyclists, very, very unlikely scenario that there's a person out there just hunting people on bicycles to kill with their gun. I don't know if I got off the track.
But I mean, what we're talking about here is that these are, it could be spontaneous. And I think my point is, anybody, we should all remember that, let it pass, let that feeling pass. You'll be better. There's always hope. Things will always pass. Don't, if it's a button that you can push and it'll destroy your life forever or kill you, that's a terrible thing to have. It's a terrible, whether it's a gun, whether it's, whatever, news.
And that's the ultimate, because I saw some and I hate to give this dumb bitch any fucking extra media, man. But because I feel like everybody does. Marjorie Taylor Greene goes out, she does something just fucking absurd, and then she's like, and I just triggered the motherfucking libs, and I'm like, no, you didn't. But the only reason I bring her up is simply because of the current argument for the AR-15 as a hunting, as a tool for hunting. And she came up with this video, and she's out, and she's like in a fucking Jeep with an AR-15, and she's like, out here with my favorite hunting rifle. And we got all these, and the thing is, there's people that are rational, and there's people that are soldiers, that have used these weapons in war, and they're like, you would never ever, if you're trying to hunt for meat, an AR-15 would be
Yeah,
like one of
yeah.
the most ridiculous weapons
Dumbest. Yeah.
to fucking hunt for meat for. It would obliterate the animal. You're gonna bring home any meat, like
Exactly.
so. I don't
It
know.
doesn't look. It doesn't. We've had hunting. Other countries have hunting. It's not about the hunt, and there is a sort of thing. Again, there's a. This is another thing that when I get engaged with with people who argue pro guns, this is they sort of this is difficult for people to understand. I mean, it's difficult for people to, I think, accept. When you have, that theory of that saying, if you have a hammer in your hand, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
You know, and there's people who are drawn to buying AR-15s. Now, not everybody who owns an AR-15 is going to end up being a shooter, for sure. A vast majority are responsible gun owners, fine. But the people who end up, they said that gun tends to attract those idiots.
Yeah.
Now, why is that? I don't know. If I put you in a minivan and then I put you in a Ferrari, you're going to drive different. It's the same person
Yeah,
with a different tool. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Same person, same foot, different tool. It's just it changed. That's I don't think people like to accept, especially gun people, because a lot of gun people take pride in their control over this weapon, in their self-control. They actually really,
Yeah.
and on one level, you got to hand it to them. Yes, it takes a lot of discipline and self-control. If you tell them that really the human brain is in such a way that the tool, the inanimate object you're holding, can affect you. It's not all your willpower. It has something to do with your surroundings, what you have in your hand. They find that offensive. I get that they find that offensive, and
Yeah.
I get that you're maybe the most responsible gun, but a lot of people can't handle that. A lot of people can't. That allure, the temptation, the violence, a lot of people are into that. And they can't resist the temptation of it. So it's a difficult thing for them to, I don't like motorcycles. I know I'm a dick for not I think they're fun. I've ridden them. I love, but when I'm in my car and I see them on the fucking highway, I'm terrified because, what if they fall? What if all you gotta do is graze one by accident. Do you know what I mean? And it's a tragedy. So for my own selfish reasons, I don't like them. But people, we live in that's a thing. Not only here, but everywhere in the world, people have motorcycles. Are they the safest thing? No. Do a lot of people die with them? Yeah. I mean, do you own a motorcycle?
No, man, but I will say, if I had a choice, and I know this is not exactly going to line up with what you're going, but if I had a choice of if I was going to set out regulations, I would increase motorcycles and I would eliminate SUVs almost entirely, unless you could prove that your SUV is some kind of work vehicle, and you can prove it absolutely that it is not a status symbol. I would take every SUV off the road and replace it with as many mopeds and motorcycles as possible. I think that would that might be a solution to more safety.
It's more me because I know people who've died on motorcycles, and it's just, especially young men, and the testosterone and everything. Again, I'm just using them. I don't mean it seriously, but I'm just using them as a sort of comparison to guns. It's this thing that exists in our society that's dangerous. It's dangerous on multiple levels, and you need to be careful with it. So maybe have motorcycles. I think Sam Harris says that having a license for a gun should be like on the level of pilot's license. Like you get constantly, like he wants people constantly reevaluated, like everything, and even like financially, are you okay? All kinds of stuff every year in order for you to continue owning a gun. That may be extreme. It's probably never going to get there, but I have a feeling that the only hope that we have towards guns is a consumer value kind of hope. It's convincing people not to get it as a consumer choice. You're not going to get the government's freaking. It's the fucking weapons industry. They can always lobby. They're never gonna. The only thing you could do is convince people, make it uncool. Like I always had a feeling, if you allow the sale of AR-15 or any gun ever, but they all have to be pink.
Yeah, they can't be camouflaged.
Yeah, they have to all be pink. They have to be some have to have tassels like a girl's bicycle. Some people wouldn't buy them as much. They just wouldn't be this cool.
I mean, you do have to admit, man, a lot of aesthetic design goes into these rifles. Like, they don't have to look that cool.
Yeah, I know. They try to make them, exactly. They try to make them look as cool as possible, and what are just ingrained in it too. And then now it's become like, I always think that the shooter stuff, it's almost like a meme that keeps repeating itself in society.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you were saying with the Onion, dude, the Onion, every single time they do it, they release the same story. I don't know when they originally wrote it, and it says tragedy unavoidable tragedy happens that only occurs here. Nothing can be done about it. And they run it they run it after every shooting. I was gonna say something just recently. There's a weird Venn diagram for me, man, where I feel like there's a lot of people on the extreme far right that are like armed to the teeth, like with like, they have enough guns to arm like a platoon for just one man. Mm-hmm. And then there's like me, and it's like, I've got my knives and fucking weapons and shit, and I do a little bit of martial arts and shit. I'm not, but I'm not, dude, I'm not Jason Bourne. These are just hobbies,
Yeah, nobody's Jason Bourne.
There's a Venn diagram. Yeah, I know nobody is Jason Bourne. I've been thinking about that a lot. There's like this Venn diagram where there are things in media that those dudes love that I am also just, I love it. I love too. Like, there's this stupid fucking show I've been watching on Amazon. I shouldn't say stupid fucking show because I'm enjoying the hell out of it. It's like Chris Pratt. He's a fucking he's a Navy SEAL who's been like betrayed by the Navy brass, and now he's like a lone wolf Navy SEAL who's like, he's like fighting the FBI, killing like corporate CEOs, killing like admirals, all the shit. And I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, this is awesome, but like his home is literally like, he opens a safe, he's got like 16 AR-15s and like, AK-47s and but the thing is, I'm watching this and I'm like, man, this is some MAGA shit. At the same time, there's some dude that, like, if I knew him, I would be like, oh man, this guy's a problem, who's watching it and just with a boner, like, this is
yeah, exactly. It entices them. There's this thing where I think Bill Maher did it a couple of weeks ago, and his like new rules. We said Hollywood does cast some blame on this. I mean, the glorification of the gun. I mean, if you look at the way people get shot, even in a high value, like normal Hollywood movie, not like some Jason, even in like a more serious Hollywood movie, when you see people get shot, it is nothing like what people look like when they get shot. First of all, when Jason Bourne goes in and shoots 20 people, whatever, they die immediately. They just that's not how, if he goes in a room and shoots 5 people, there's going to be just crying 5 people for the next 5 minutes in that room.
Yeah, those are not all kill shots.
And even if if you shoot a guy in the head, sometimes there's a lot, it's just, but the pain of that, you understand, like that's a consequence of the action. And that's not fun to watch. So that Hollywood's constantly giving us just the release of, it's fun to boom, 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 shoot people. And then you're not seeing the consequences of it. So it does hold a lot of responsibility for propagating gun culture, because these idiots don't realize what it's like. They don't realize what the aftermath is like, and sometimes people get shot, they don't realize they get shot. They're like, holy shit, did I get shot? It's not like what it appears like in the movies.
And I know, like, it wouldn't make a fun movie to show the person who was shot and then what their life has become in the recovery, after, but I have a few friends that have been shot. I got one guy in particular in my mind, like I had a few friends that have been shot on accident. I got one friend that shot definitely on purpose in a robbery situation. Mm-hmm. And what's so fucked up, man, is like, his life is like forever changed because he's got, his physical disabilities now.
Sure.
So
sure, it's terrible.
Like,
it's nobody.
It wasn't like cool. Like what are those things? Those I never think of those little blood packets that explode on actors.
Oh yeah. It doesn't look. Yeah, it doesn't. It even in Hollywood, you'll even see inserts in movie, like clips from movies where the guy gets shot and then has a conversation like that. Like
Yeah.
it's not like people hurt, they're bleeding. It's a terrible situation. On so many, it's not fun and it's dull. It's just oh God, we got to deal with this. I have a friend who is a doctor. She was a doctor in the States, in New York, sorry. And then she went to, I think actually, she may have, George Washington University, Nashville.
We have Vanderbilt University would be like the main medical center here.
Maybe she was in that. She went to a state I can't remember where, maybe Tennessee.
I think George Washington's in Virginia, right?
Maybe. That makes sense. Anyway, she was in a state not on the, in the middle where there's guns.
Yeah.
And
no, Virginia was in the Confederacy.
No, this was like maybe a couple of years ago, and she said something like 5-6 years ago. Then I saw her again when she came to New York, and we talked about, like, she said, you have no idea. You keep on hearing about gun deaths in the States, but so many people get wounded with guns and just they wound themselves.
Yeah.
There are people who shoot themselves by accident.
I have two friends who shot themselves by accident.
Yeah, and that's you. You're not compiling statistics. That's just you randomly. She goes, we have so many cases at the hospital where people could show up. It's usually in the leg or in the hand or something.
Yeah.
Where it's accident, and sometimes they don't want to admit it, and then they're kind of like, well, yeah, I was walking, and then eventually they're like, well, we got to call the cops. Somebody shot you.
Yeah.
We have to call the cops. But there begs the question, and then they come clean. Should they call the cops even if you shoot yourself by accident? Isn't that a safety violation? If you're shooting yourself, should you really be handling? I mean, think about that. Like, what if you shot somebody else?
Yeah.
Or you shoot a gun in your condo, it goes through the freaking wall, it kills somebody in the next apartment. These things happen daily, and it's not a cool story. Nobody likes to say, "Oh, I was cleaning my gun out and I shot myself." Especially the gun people. They don't like hearing that shit, and it happens daily. So, anyway.
All right, well, guys, you heard it here first. Me and Sasha just solved.
We solved guns.
Hey, Sasha, man, I gotta tell you something, dude. I gotta tell you something crazy, dude. We are dangerously close to the lightning round.
Go for it.
So, let me explain to you how the lightning round works, man. I'm gonna ask you some questions, really fast, and basically, dude, like, no time to think. You just gotta gut reaction, answer whatever you think's like it's gonna be. So I know that's tough, and especially puts you, it can put you in a tight spot because some of these questions, it's gonna be like, shit, what's my answer? So, but man, I believe that you're a dude that can think on your feet and you're ready to fucking rock and roll. So
try to do it. Let's go.
Okay. Yo, did you even see Stranger Things? Because that's gonna help a lot for this to work.
I saw everything until I just watched one episode of the last season.
Okay. Do you know the new monster's named Vecna?
I've heard it's named Vecna.
And like he can possess you, and the only thing that can like save you is your favorite song.
Oh wow.
Okay. Well, anyway, now you know that, so that's all you need to know.
Okay.
All right, dude. You're a character on Stranger Things, and Vecna has just possessed you. What song do I have to put on your headphones to keep you from getting sucked into the Upside Down?
I guess the Beatles' "A Day in the Life."
All right, dude. Now I know, just in case Vecna is real.
Yeah. I mean, there's several. I think that one works the best. Or it's a Jumbo by Underworld, if you want to not go so old on the references. So Jumbo from Underworld. Okay.
I feel like I'd be embarrassed to tell my friends what song to put on. I'd be like, oh,
what is it?
No, I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, if I was like, dude, you got to put in Into the Groove by Madonna, bro. It's the only thing that's gonna suck me back from Vecna.
Yeah, you're like, you know what? Is possession, the embarrassment of that would be, maybe possession isn't so bad. Maybe I just ride through being possessed by Vecna.
Well, also, my favorite song changes, like, because the thing is, like, I'll get obsessed with a song and I'll be like for a week, and then every time I get in my car, it's the first thing I do. I put that shit on, I'll listen to it maybe 2 or 3 times before I decide to listen to something else. And after that week, I am just disgusted by that song because of what I've done. Like, just like,
I do that too. I over listen to it and I just can't listen to it after a while. It's not good. That's not a good move.
Right. Moving on to the next question, man. I am actually super curious to hear what your opinion is on this, because this is like, everyone's got their own. And mine is kind of like, I feel like maybe not as mainstream as it maybe once was, but whatever. Greatest flexes in movie history. So for me, I would have to say, like, in Cape Fear, when Robert De Niro goes in the movie theater smoking a cigar and he's like laughing as loud as he can, and it's all just to like ruin the fucking film for the lawyer and his family. I would say that's like in the top 10 movie flexes, you know, when he's just like just blowing cigar smoke, just flexing that he can just ruin their movie. So, for you, man, like in cinema, man, what's a flex that stands out to you like top 10?
This is a terrible. Nobody should ever do this, but it's a flex. In Apocalypse Now, when they go surfing, you know, when they hear about the six foot peak, and they just blow up a village just to go surfing. I mean,
it's like that's Charlie's Peak, man.
Yeah. Charlie don't surf. That's a flex. I mean, unfortunately, that had some reality connected to it. But is it Robert Duvall who plays the colonel?
Robert Duvall is the head of the air cavalry.
Yeah, Kilgore. Yeah. So his whole thing there, when he's a flex, like, you know, I'll get you a case of beer for that one. And then he's like on the beach, takes a shot. I'm not afraid to surf this beach. He takes his shirt off.
Yeah.
There's mortar fire going off. Everybody's like crouching, and he's just like, what the hell is that? You know, like there's a whole that Robert Duvall in Apocalypse Now. Again, and there's an element. You know, the best part is like sort of at the end of Robert Duvall's part, the narrator, you know, says, you know, you just knew he wasn't going to come off with even a scratch in this thing.
Yeah.
You just knew he's going to get through the war. He's going to be fine. No PTSD, no injury, no purple, nothing.
I was just thinking that too when you were bringing him up, because like, yeah, Robert Duvall's character is just a fucking like nonstop flex. Like everything about wearing that fucking cowboy hat or whatever that, you know, that cavalry. Everything, you know, the way he walks, the way he talks to people, fucking smelling napalm in the morning.
Yeah. And he has a whole thing. He created you know, it's almost like a way to escape, you know, terror. It's like you gamified this war. You know, he almost created a whole alternate reality. They're making steaks. It seemed like fun. Like he made the whole war seem like. There's one scene. I love Apocalypse Now, by the way. There's one scene where, you know, after the battle in the village is done or something, there's one soldier just sitting on like a rock, just kind of with his head down, like a U.S. soldier, and he's walking around going. He slaps him kind of on the back and I go, "Cheer up, son."
Yeah.
Cheer up.
It's just cheer up.
Yeah, it's just bodies strewn everywhere.
And then in that scene, like one of the villagers like gets a grenade into one of their helicopters and blows it up. The Marines are on fire. I mean, these are like their closest friends. You know, like he's just like, cheer up, son, go surf.
Yeah,
like, the fuck
exactly.
are you talking about, man?
And then there's that scene where he's like trying to give water to a VC. Like there's an enemy soldier that's the guy that's like guts, you know, hanging out. And he's like, anybody who's willing to fight, you know, he has this weird morality to the whole thing. Like he respects
anyone who's willing to try and put his own guts back in his stomach can drink from my canteen.
Yeah, he's got this whole, you know, world that he lives. I think that's a flex. You know,
I think my favorite quote from that entire movie though is, it's not exactly a flex, but it's like, it's boisterous. It's Chef when they finally arrive at Marlon Brando's compound, and at this point, there's only a couple of them left. There's Chef, the surfer kid, and Michael Douglas, and he's like, man, like, you know, you can get out if you want or whatever. And he goes, man, I ain't afraid of all these fucking skulls and altars and shit. It was actually sampled by the band Ministry, which I started listening to that band before I'd ever even seen the movie Apocalypse Now. So when I first saw that scene, I was like, mind fucking blown. This lightning round needs to get lightning up. All right. Fuck. Speaking of flex, dude. All right. You're in yoga class and you can tell you have a very loud fart on deck. Do you hold the fart to be a gentleman or let it out as a show of dominance?
Wow. I hold it in just because, you know, I don't find it dominating to fart. And like, I have a feeling, dude, you know what that is? That's a thing for, I don't know if you just sort of noticed, I've been meaning to do a sort of joke about it. All right, you know how George Clooney and Johnny Depp and there's all these like actors that are well known for doing little pranks on, like Johnny Depp or Johnny Depp was like he'd have a scene where he's kissing a girl in the movie, right? And he'd fart,
I
and
didn't
then
know
everybody
that.
would giggle. Oh, like yeah, I remember hearing some stuff like that. Or he'd do like gross little things to kind of lighten the mood or whatever. This is years ago. And George Clooney also kind of does these pranks that on set to kind of make everybody relaxed and just bond with people. Yeah, that's only if you're good looking.
Yep.
That kind of shit. If you look like Johnny Depp or George Clooney, people find that cute. Nobody's gonna. If I fart in yoga class, nobody's gonna look at me like, oh, man, really, he really showed us. They're just gonna see me as disgusting,
I see,
which is
like,
true.
George Clooney's in a like kiss scene. He like just makes out with like this, whoever his counterpart actress is, and then he's like, "Yo, I just gave you oral herpes. I got to open
Yeah,
sore."
and you're like, oh,
She's like, "Oh, George."
I'd love to get your herpes. Like it's all yeah. It doesn't make sense for me. I'd hold it in.
All right, man. This one's this is we've been talking about personal freedoms here in the U.S. What what we should or shouldn't be allowed to do, regulations, all that. So this is a true or false question, and you tell me, true or false if this is how it should be. This happened to me. I had fucking gnarly COVID, dude. I was in bed for fucking weeks. It was really bad. It was recently.
Sucks.
Caught on a fucking airplane. So I just caught a respiratory illness on an airplane recently. It was pretty. I mean, it got me very sick. I still cough every day. It's been weeks.
Wow.
This should give me the right to supersede federal regulations and smoke cigarettes on planes whenever I want. True or false?
The fact that you had a respiratory illness, it should give you the right to smoke cigarettes on a plane.
Well, isn't the argument against smoking on a plane is that it causes people to have respiratory illnesses?
So if you have one already, you can.
I mean, they gave me a respiratory illness and I can't smoke.
Okay. But if it's just the smoke, okay, if it's just you and the person who specifically gave you a respiratory illness, and if it was on purpose, like if he knew coming in, I have COVID, I don't give a shit if the guy next to me catches it, you catch it, and then you take a next flight, it's just the two of you, you can light up a cigarette. Yes. Because you didn't give a shit about me, I don't give a shit about you yet. But you're not, you don't have the seating arrangement of the next flight. So
all right. There are babies on planes too.
Yeah. There should be
all right, you know what? Fine.
No smoking,
FAA regulations, you win again.
Maybe
Sasha, man, I got one last question to ask you, and this is
sure.
This is so much more important than all these lightning round questions, man. And this is, dude, where can people find you?
Okay.
Check out. Also, yeah. I just want to add a little caveat before you say, because I want to say your special, Artificial Ignorance, fucking hilarious, and you gotta go watch it. So anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you. Just wanted to my own personal
I appreciate
opinion.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So yeah, you can see me. I mean, you can follow me on social media, Sasha Srbulj, at Instagram, same thing on Twitter, same thing on Facebook, SASHA SRBULJ. You can catch my special on YouTube. I have a YouTube page. I post a lot of clips there. I post a lot of clips on TikTok and Instagram, just stuff I'm working through. And I'll be, I'm performing at City Winery on the 29th at 10 p.m. In New York. In DC, I'm performing City Winery, I think on the 13th. I have a show in Stamford, Connecticut, Dinner's Ready, which I think I'm headlining on the 11th of August. So, there's all kinds of stuff going, and you can catch me, look up my webpage and where I'm performing. So that's that.